Good afternoon, sir. My name is Anthony Jones, doing session two of of our video journal. So the questions that's on here is your video journal for the session will answer the following questions covering chapter five, leading like a servant, chapter six, leading like a shepherd. Utilize critical thinking. Two, compare and contrast servant leadership and secular leadership. Explain how you are challenged to lead like a leopard, or like a shepherd. Excuse me. And provide example of how servant and or shepherd leadership can be applied to business practices today. Um, a really deep question. When I initially think about it, I would have to say that um, leading like a servant or leading like a shepherd, more so the action first. I think it is a mentality. Think it is a mentality that one has, and if one doesn't have it, then one tries to develop it and work on it. And if one does have it, one develops to make it better. Ways that we can do this would be reading, um, reading scripture, and familiarizing ourselves with the principles of God and developing a relationship with God. All great leaders that come to mind: Moses, Joshua, David, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King. All these great leaders had, or at least had the perception of having spiritual God in their life, having a relationship with God. So I think having a relationship with God is definitely one of the, excuse me, my phone wrong. It's definitely one of the keys to guiding your leadership. So what I mean by that is leading like a servant. Uh, in the New Testament, Jesus, he washed his disciples' feet, not because he had to, and they didn't even want him to, but it was showing it was a servant attitude that he had. It was more so of showing his mentality of that he is not too great to do this act. It's humbleness, and I think that demonstrated and that showed a lot or the type of attitude you have to be as being a servant leader. Generally, looking at the secular way of things, it's your leader is in charge. Your leader is the one with privileges. Your leader is the one who doesn't necessarily have to get his hands dirty. The leader is the one who has quote unquote arrived or who has made it, the one who's not thought of to be the worker bee per se. Um, but when you flip that with a servant leader, it's an attitude, it's a mentality, the one like Jesus displayed, to where I am not too good, I am not above reproach, and I don't have an attitude as though I've made it. And I think having this type of mentality or this type of attitude is grounded, kind of like when we talk about shepherd leadership. It's having biblical principles instilled in you that guides your values, your opinions, and ultimately how you treat people. Um, in the golden rule, treat people how you would like to be treated. I mean, all these the deepest roots and the soundest wisdom that we have in leadership comes from scripture, and we can see it repeated time and time again throughout scripture. So having a strong, rooted and grounded spiritual background with God, I think, is what gives birth to leading like a servant and leading like a shepherd. I think it is extremely tough to do either one of those types of leadership if you don't have a relationship with God. Because if you don't have a relationship with God, then you go more into the worldly type of leadership, like I mentioned earlier. Um, you listen, I say, you do. I'm on top, you're not. And I'm the one that's in charge and you're not. So you'll do as I say. But once again, when you kind of understand the relationship with God, you understand that your position doesn't make you a leader. You understand that your position just gives you the opportunity to display what kind of leader you're going to be. I think Abraham Lincoln said it the right way. He says, you know, I'm paraphrasing this, but he alluded to the fact that everybody can overcome adversity at some time or another. But if you really want to know the true character of a person, give them a little bit of power and see what they do with it. And I think that's such a true statement. Once again, having power, having the responsibility to lead over people or have people follow you, I think once again to perform it to your best ability, like what Moses did, what like Abraham did, and what David did. They were truly connected with God, and that's what ultimately led them to their best leadership. So I think if you're going to lead like a servant and lead like a shepherd, it first starts with a self awareness of yourself, and then it then starts with your relationship with God. And as long as you're right with God first, obviously, and then yourself, everything else will fall into place. I'm Anthony Jones, Video Journal number 2. Thanks for your time.